Hi, I'm your Historic Preservation Program Manager, Kimberly Fitzgerald. I'll be giving you regular updates about our Historic Preservation Program and projects we're working on, as well as a few fun tidbits of history. So, part of our program will always be This Day in History. So, today, on April 13th, 1920, the Statesman Journal reported that a hydroplane would be landing on the Willamette River on Wednesday, April 14th. So the plane, flown by an Army pilot, was piloting the plane for a gentleman who was the chairman of the Republican Party. So I was not able to confirm one way or another whether or not this plane actually did land on the Willamette River in Salem. I do have a picture here of a hydroplane from that era. So maybe if you're listening and you can actually confirm that one way or another, it'd be great to know. So now I'm going to switch hats and put on my archaeology hat. And as part of every video program that I'm going to update you on what's going on in the world of archaeology. So this week we're going to be starting work on the Jason Lee Mission House Archaeology Project, which is located at 960-990 Broadway Street, Northeast. We're pretty excited about that. So back in November of last year, the proposal for this new mixed-use building was approved at Salem's Planning Commission. The property owner reached out to me to ask if the property had any archaeological significance and whether any compliance would be required as part of the redevelopment. So at first glance, this property doesn't look that interesting. It's just a parking lot really and a kind of undeveloped grassy area. But I was very excited to discover that this was actually the location of Jason Lee's second Methodist mission house. So there's a picture of Jason Lee here, as well as the house, a drawing of the house that he built here. So Jason Lee, was largely credited with bringing Oregon under American control because at the time he settled here, which was in 1834, when he first located up at Mission Bottom, it was just Oregon territory, and it was an area that was highly contested, and a lot of different folks wanted to bring it under their control. And if not for his efforts, we could be living in Canada right now. So Jason Lee was not very acknowledged well during his lifetime. He died in 1845 back east after essentially being fired because he wasn't very successful with his missionary work. He was initially buried back east, but then was reburied in Salem in 1906 because his reputation was reinvigorated in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And you can see an example of a document published by Lewis Judson talking about Jason Lee's impact on the Oregon country. So the house itself, in addition to being where Jason Lee and his family and a number of other families lived that were part of the Methodist mission, it also served as Salem's first post office. It was the initial location of the territorial treasury. It was a courtroom and also served as a boarding house in later years. So preservationists moved the house in 1963, and interestingly enough, very similar to what's happening right now, it was because the property was going to be redeveloped. The building that stands there today was constructed not long after this building was moved, and it was thought that there was going to be another building constructed, but that didn't seem to come to pass. So since the time it was relocated, it's just been that parking lot and that grassy area. So the house itself is currently located at the Willamette Heritage Center. So once they reopen after this difficult period, you can go visit it. So what does this all mean for the project and for the archaeology? So just to give you a bit of background, archaeological sites and objects are protected, and there's a lot of laws out there that protect archaeological sites. So in the United States, there are a number of federal laws, beginning with the Antiquities Act, which was adopted in 1906, and culminating with the Native American Graves Repatriation Act, or NAGPRA, in 1990. In Oregon, there are also a number of laws that protect archaeological sites. and administrative rules for administering them. In Salem, even our local revised code has some protections for archaeological sites. Well, so archaeological sites are protected. What does this mean in particular for this project? Well, it means that the excavation, injury, destruction, or alteration of a site is prohibited on public or private land unless authorized by a permit. So we know we need to get a permit because this site is significant, and more than likely there's a number of artifacts under that grassy area and parking lot that we'll uncover at the time that that property is redeveloped. So in this particular case, because this site is so significant, we are entering into a partnership with the property owner, the private property owner who owns the property. And we're working with a number of different partners, starting with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde, Willamette University, the Willamette Heritage Center, the Oregon State Historic Preservation Office, and of course, a number of important partners within the city of Salem. And what are our project goals? Well, you know, we had a lot of goals before this pandemic arrived unexpectedly, and we've had to revise them a little bit, but they're still essentially the same. We wanted to do some ground penetrating radar or non-invasive survey based upon historic maps. So there's a picture there of a Sanborn fire insurance map that shows the foundation of the Jason Lee house with a big arrow. And we wanted to do some soil and core sampling just to see what the soils are like there, just to see where the fill is and what it looks like there underneath the asphalt and the grass. And then once we do that, we want to do some selective excavation and artifact recovery just so we can learn as much as we can from this site before it's redeveloped. And after that, we want to do some interpretation so that folks who work on the site and those who walk and drive by it can learn more about it. Here's a little picture of some GPR that we were able to do in the last couple of weeks, and you can see that little spot there. That's where we think the foundation of the house is, where it was filled in. So we're also doing some background research. So the first Jason Lee Mission House, which was built up at Mission Bottom, which is now Mission State Park, and where the original Methodists and Jason Lee settled in 1834. So some archaeological work was done in 1979, 1980 by Oregon State University. Dr. David Bronner and his team, they recovered 7,500 artifacts dating from 1834 to 1841. And these artifacts and the work that they did can help us learn what to expect when we do our work out there. Now, what about volunteering? Well, we had initially hoped that this was going to be a public archaeology volunteer project similar to what we had at the police facility, but because of COVID-19 and our desire to help people be as safe as possible, we're limiting volunteering just to archaeologists and their families, or to archaeology students at Willamette University, or members of the Oregon Archaeological Society who've already had some training. And we're limiting our work just to 1 to 2 units at a time. We're going to be practicing social distancing and also have a hand washing station on the site. However, you know, I'm still going to be doing updates like this video update, so you can learn more about what we're doing. So what's next? Look for our weekly project updates, and you can subscribe to our video channel, which, if you want a taste of Salem's history, you can look at our website and find the link, and then you can subscribe. Thanks so much for supporting Salem's Historic Preservation Program, and look forward to sharing some more about our project soon.